You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Hi, everybody. It's Katie. As a lot of you probably know, we are on summer break, but we didn't want to leave you high and dry. So today we are playing an episode from Patreon from 2022. This episode is about Constance of Castile, and it was a rabbit hole we went down when researching Katherine Swynford. While the Katherine Swynford episode isn't a prerequisite, it wouldn't hurt. And if you don't know a lot about this part of England and Spain in this time period, you might also want to check out our Isabella of Castile episodes too. All right, enjoy. Oh, and hey, we curse a lot. So if you don't like cursing, you're not going to like this. Okay, cheers, bitches.
Katie, it's my loving Katie.
Oh, I like this song. Nathan, little baby Nathan.
Baby. Hey, hello, Patreon supporters.
Hello. Nathan, in our last episode was Katherine Swynford.
Yes.
We know her main boo thing, the love of her life at least, was John of Gaunt. But John of Gaunt had
a wife.
2 other wives.
Yeah. Well, while they were dating, he had a wife.
He had a wife. Hashtag poor baby Constance, I think is what we called her in the episode. Today, I am getting Nathan's story time, and you are going to give me the lowdown on Constance of Castile, right?
Yes, and honestly, like, whenever I first started the Constance of Castile research, you know, you always kind of start off on Wikipedia, just because you want to get, like, okay, life, death. Yeah, like the basic dates, like life, death, marriages, children, done. And then I go on and move elsewhere. Wikipedia had like 1 paragraph.
Really?
It was horrible. Absolutely no research on it. But once I started to dig a little deeper and go a little bit further, I did find a lot of really cool backstory. So,
well,
super excited.
I know every time we ever look into Spanish history, those stories are always fucking bananas.
Telenovela, right? It's a telenovela.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't mean to make this like a, you know, telenovela is a Spanish term, but I mean it's true. Like
it's really always you're marrying relatives, and people are getting kidnapped, and people are getting weird amnesia diseases. So I'm excited to hear this story and the research that you found. So why don't you kick it off?
I feel like a lot of Constance's story is about what happened to her father. So a lot of her story is going to start off, and it'll start to make sense of, oh, so that's why she is the way that she is. So we really have to talk about her father first. So buckle up, because we're going to get into some Castilian history.
Click, click. Yeah. That was me buckling my seatbelt.
So just in case you're wondering, yes, Constance of Castile is the great-grandmother of Isabella of Castile, the queen.
Oh!
Imagine that. So obviously that also makes Constance the great-grandmother of Catherine of Aragon.
Yes.
So, yes, I got greats right. Great. So,
great.
So we're about to get a little bit dicky, because we got to learn about Dad.
Gonna get a little bit dicky.
We're gonna get a little bit. Oh. I hope you can see that Katie just kind of like did a little shimmy for me there.
The dirty dance. You know, except you can't really see me.
So we're going to talk about her dad first, Pedro. He does go down in history as King Peter of Castile, but I like Pedro better. I might say Peter on accident. Deal with it.
Well, Pedro is, like, Peter is the English version of Pedro, right?
Pedro, exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about Pedro of Castile, or his Anglicanized name, Peter the Cruel.
Ooh.
So
I might know a little bit about this guy, but I'm not sure. Yeah. Go on.
So whoever his PR rep is, he needs to fire them stat. Like, last name, the Cruel, not cool.
Not.
You saw that? Did you see that coming?
I love it when you rhyme. It just blows my mind.
Oh, look at that smooth chick over there. So, Pedro, we're not going to call him Peter the Cruel, because history kind of is slanted on this one. Pedro was tall, light blonde hair, blue eyes, 6 foot tall, muscular. Sorry, I'm dreaming. I did read that he actually had a lisp. I'm very partial to a lisp.
Super.
Super, thanks for asking. Super hard worker. Loved music, art, poetry. Honestly, guys, husband material. Like, right? Like, art, music, poetry, tall, dark, not dark, he's light-skinned, but handsome, beautiful. Like, come on, sign me up.
I mean, except for the nickname The Cruel, everything else is sounding great, yeah.
Yeah, but he might have not been as cruel as we actually think.
Okay.
So, also in his description was that he, quote-unquote, loved women greatly, which means he's a hoe.
Yeah.
That's the nice way of putting it in 14th century life, that your king is a slut.
Okay. I mean, so most kings are. It's kind of an anomaly whenever we're like, and he didn't cheat on his wife. So,
Right, but at this point, he's just a slut. He doesn't have a wife yet, but he needs to have a wife so he can start hoeing around and cheating on her, right?
That's kind of what they do.
So his first bride-to-be was named Joan, the daughter of King Edward III of England. Maybe I've heard of him.
Okay,
but
yeah.
She was to travel to go see Peter or Pedro during the Black Plague. And they were like, OMG, don't. There's the Black Plague. And she decided to go anyway. So I'll give you one guess of what happened to her.
She did.
Yep, she did.
So that would have been John of Gaunt's sister then.
Yes, correct.
Oh, it's all coming together. Everyone's related in the royalty.
Yeah, surprise! So after ye old potential lady dies, he decides, hey, I need someone younger, prettier. I got to get her knocked up and also alive, and I got to cheat on her too. So I need some royal babies so I can cheat on her as well. So enter Maria Padilla.
Maria.
Yeah, Maria de Padilla. Sorry, that's very hard to say quickly. So she's not a royal, but we'll get back to that. Let's put a pin in that.
Okay.
So the two met when Peter was on an expedition to squash a rebellion underneath his illegitimate brother's name. So he had a bastard brother.
Ooh.
And nothing like a bastard brother to bring two lovebirds together. Right? Like one does.
Like might happen on a soap opera.
Right? And legend goes that apparently sometime between here when they meet and a couple years later, the two actually married in secret.
Ooh.
Giving me very Henry VIII, Anne Boleyn vibes.
I love a secret marriage. Yes.
So it's debated whether or not they actually were married, but I tend to think yes. I mean, it's pretty well claimed that happened, but we really just don't know. So insert telenovela.
Okay.
This is where the telenovela comes up. So his advisors are like, okay, we really got to get you to marry some royal woman so that you can start making them royal babies.
Ooh, this is giving me Edward IV, Elizabeth Woodville vibes.
Yes, very similar to that. So they're trying to force him to get married to someone. So he has to, Peter/Pedro, Pedro has to end up saying, all right, I'm going to have to deny that this marriage, the secret marriage, ever happened. Very much Edward and Elizabeth. I'm going to have to deny this ever happened. I'm going to have to pretend that we're okay, that, I'm a single, ready to mingle king, woo woo. But then, he gets to meet Blanche de Bourbon, Blanche Devereaux de Bourbon, if you're that nasty. That's
Blanche
not really
it's
her
so
name.
weird. Like, I feel like this is the first time that we've ever done an episode or a couple of episodes where Blanche was a popular name. It seems like it was a popular name amongst the nobility, but like just this generation. And then it kind of goes
Right,
away.
it really was. It was just this generation. And so they end up actually getting married. And then after three long days...
But she was a blue blood, right? She was...
Yes, correct.
Okay.
She was from the Bourbon family.
Okay.
So after 3 days of marriage, literally King Pedro is like, nope, I'm out.
Never mind.
Like 3 days.
Control Z.
Right? It's like... I really honestly think it's pretty obvious why he ended up ending this with Blanche. It's telenovela. He's in love with Maria, in my opinion. That's what it is.
Okay.
But you know what? Maybe her vagina had teeth. We just never know.
Remember when we talked about Ingeborg or whatever of Denmark who married the French king, that after like one night he was like, she's a witch, I can't do it. Like, I wonder if she put a spell on his dick or something.
Maybe so. It's very possible.
You heard it here first, Queen's podcast. Maybe he put she put a spell on his dick.
Or her vagina had teeth.
Vagina had teeth. Both are like viable options.
But for real, I really think it was, he tried to marry this girl named Blanche from Bourbon and was like, no, but I really love Maria. Yeah. You know, it's just one of those like, I can't do this. Oh my God, I have to be with my woman. Oh, I have to. And of course,
loved her already.
Yeah, that's literally, it's a telenovela. Yeah. Picture perfect. I can't marry you because I'm in love with another woman. And that's exactly pretty much what happened. So he was really in love with Maria because they boned a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. So, of course, we know King Pedro and Maria have our girl Constance, or else we wouldn't be talking about her. But add to the mix Beatrice, Isabella, and Alfonso, all within a 5-year period. So, four babies.
That is some Jaquetta of Luxembourg shit. It's just like, pregnant. I'm going to need some recovery time. But they were just so horny for each other that she was like, let's go.
Let's just keep going at it. Let's keep pounding. So, I mean, why not?
That should be on a Valentine's Day card. Let's keep going at it. Let's keep pounding. Why not? With a heart.
Oh my God. So, not only was our girl...
New merch idea!
New merch idea. I love it.
Anyway.
So, not only was our girl Constance born in 1354, guess who got married again? Pedro got married again.
Oh, wait. So he did to someone besides Maria?
Yeah, he never marries Maria. So, at this point, well, he secretly married
Constance
Maria.
is illegitimate?
Technically, right now, yes, she would be considered
Okay, I'll shut up and quit interrupting the story.
No, well, because at this point, he's still denying the marriage, that secret marriage that happened between him and Maria. Still debated if it did or did not happen. Ooh. But yes, she would technically be illegitimate at this point because he hasn't acknowledged that marriage happened. So not only was our girl Constance born in 1354, guess who got married again? King Pedro.
Her daddy.
He hasn't technically recognized the marriage with Maria right now, so he's still denying that ever happened, so he's technically single. So that would make...
It's not super dissimilar to Katherine Swynford.
No, and that's why I find it very, very similar, and so that's why I think in terms of Constance, she was more accepting of Katherine Swynford, because they had very similar upbringings, if you will. Yeah.
That's interesting that she would go on to marry a man that has the same kind of relationship with a mistress. That's just an interesting
Exactly. I know. That's what I found really interesting. I was like, it's really funny how these two women are very similar. So it makes me think if they actually might have gotten along. You know?
I don't know
Like,
that their
maybe
two
they're-
paths crossed in real life too much.
But I feel like they would have gotten along. Like, in real life, if they met, they would have gotten along because they have very similar upbringings.
Yeah.
So, King Pedro ends up getting married to a woman named Juana de Castro. And, like, this time, he decides to one-up himself. Okay. After only 2 days, he ding-dong ditches.
Ding-dong ditches! Ding-dong ditch Nathan!
Katie's lost it. In this context, ding dong ditch means he got married to her, stuck it in her puss, and then left.
No, Nathan, I knew what ding dong ditch meant. I absolutely... We are using that as much as we can moving forward. I am a little annoyed that we haven't used it before now. You are a fucking genius. Continue with your story.
So he ding dong ditches, and unluckily for Constance, Juana de Castro actually gets pregnant and has a baby off of this. So
after one ding dong ditch?
Yeah, that's all it fucking took. And then lucky for Constance, that baby doesn't survive very long. So she's good.
That's not lucky for anybody. But
No. But in Castilian history, the less threats you have, the better. Because otherwise you're going to get kidnapped, girl.
Yeah.
So after this after he leaves Juana, guess who he comes crawling back to?
Maria. Remind me of West Side Story.
How did you know, Katie? I'm really just starting to think that Maria's pussy her pussy glitters as gold. Yes. That's a Cardi B statement.
All that glitters is gold.
So Pedro and Maria's...
She's a rock star. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Get your show on. Hey. So Pedro and Maria's relationship lasted until Maria's death in 1361. So it was quite some time. It was about,
How long was that? Do you know?
So it was around, I want to say they met, it was probably about 15-ish years that they were together.
Pretty long for a royal affair, yeah.
Yeah, but between the time that Constance, maybe it was 12 years, but between the time Constance was born and Maria died, that was a 7-year period. So just in that, they were together for 7 years.
Yeah.
But can you just take one solid guess of what Maria died of that everybody at the time died of, including his ex?
Childbirth?
The plague.
The plague! Oh, that's right. His first fiancé. The plague.
So after her death, Peter ends up coming up and saying, OMG, we were actually secretly married. And then all the bishops in Castile just kind of roll their eyes and are like, okay, sure. Bro, whatever you say, this is fine. But this actually made our girl Constance a legitimate royal now. So our girl's a princess, y'all.
That is another parallel with Katherine Swynford's kids.
So very similar lives, these two. That's why I was like researching it. And I was like, do I accidentally have all of my Katherine Swynford bookmarks saved? Like, what's going on here?
That is so interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So while all this love drama is happening, our boy Pedro is constantly being attacked by his bastard brother Henry. Also, I'm just going to call him Enrique if you're nasty.
Enrique if you're nasty. I love it.
So Enrique Iglesias feels like he's the rightful ruler of Castile and forces King Pedro to be a man on the run.
Man on the run. Paul McCartney, we changed the sound just enough that you can't sue us.
Gotcha.
I doubt Paul McCartney is a subscriber.
Nope.
The Queen's Podcast Patreon.
So Pedro, at this point, he's been overthrown by his half-brother Enrique Iglesias. Not really. Is Enrique. And they flee to southwest France. So they meet a man in southwest France by the name of Edward, the Black Prince.
Oh, so that is John of Gaunt's older brother.
Ding dong ditches.
Did they fuck? What do you mean ding dong ditches?
No. You told me to use it as much as possible, and I did.
I kind of meant specifically for sex-related situations, but you know what? Heard it here first, Queen's Podcast, The Black Prince and this King of Spain. Totally fucked.
Totally fucked. Okay, no, they did not. But they met up in the southwest of France. And just so you fucking know, if your name is the Black Prince, it means you're pretty metal as fuck.
Well, I've read a couple of different things on why he was called that. It may have been that, yeah, he was a sadistic fuck, but it may have been that his armor that he wore in battle was like a signature. He had a signature outfit, and it was black armor.
That's
and
what
I love a prince with a signature outfit.
Yes, and that's what I like to believe in, is that it was because he, was in his black armor, because that's kind of hot.
His signature outfit.
Everybody knows
his look.
But he also was a very, very, very accomplished commander at the time. He fought in this thing called, the 100 Years' War. Maybe you've heard of it.
Maybe you've heard. Actually, I want to give a disclaimer also to our listeners. We are purposely getting out of the 100 Years' War with the rest of this season. We have spent a lot of time in the 100 Years' War.
I know.
It's got a lot of interesting characters in it, though.
I mean, it was 100 years. I mean, technically, 116?
It was 114 years, but that's
something like that. But
that's not very marketable.
No, but this just gives you an idea that during that course of time of the 100 Years' War, he was noted as one of the best commanders of the entire thing. So,
no, it was a huge blow to England when he was not able to become king, and his son did at such a young age and became such a disaster.
Exactly. But needless to say, if you're a commander and one of the best in the 100 Years' War, that means you're real good at strategizing.
Strategery.
That's strategery is for strategy or
yeah, strategizing I think is the actual
there you
word.
Go. Thank you, English dictionary. So he recommends that Constance and her sister be looked after by the English, because Castile tends to kidnap people and, kill them.
They're a little bit murdery sometimes.
Right? So it's like, great idea, actually.
Yeah.
Constance remains under the constant protection of the English in southwest Spain at the time. So that's real good for her, because guess who ends up being killed? Her daddy.
Ah, shit.
Yeah.
Ah, shit.
Her daddy ends up being stabbed to death by his half-brother, Enrique Iglesias. God damn.
So Enrique Iglesias then becomes king, I'm assuming?
So, yeah.
You heard it first in Queen's Podcast, Enrique Iglesias, King of Spain.
Yep. Sometimes I know these stories are made up, because one of the stories is that Enrique walks into the room and then stabs Pedro to death, multiple different times until Pedro's just dead and there's blood everywhere. In reality, I think some, guard accidentally stabbed the king, didn't know it was the king, and then Enrique walks in and is like, well, fuck.
Well, fuck,
okay,
I'm
guys.
king now.
So, and then he's like, okay, so we got to come up with this badass story about how I stabbed him to death.
Marketing.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. Like, all this shit where a king walks in and stabs another king, bullshit. They were probably already dead.
Would you call it fake news, probably?
Fake news. But at this point, everybody just agrees. All of his people are like, okay, whatever. Yeah, you stabbed him to death. Awesome. Either way, at this point, Enrique Iglesias is now king. So that means our girl Constance is fucked.
Yeah.
She was in line for the throne. She's technically still in line for the throne, which makes her a threat.
Yeah.
So he's the half brother, and we've talked about Castilian history and all of that.
Women can inherit in Spain.
Exactly.
So, and like when we talked about like Elizabeth of York or something, she couldn't inherit, so no one was probably going to kill her. Notice that none of the daughters went missing.
Exactly.
It was just the sons. But if you live somewhere where women can't inherit,
exactly. Yep. And that's exactly what happened. She ended up being in a fortress. And at that point, Enrique, he ends up surrounding, not Enrique himself, his forces end up surrounding this fortress for 2 years.
Oh, God.
So she is surrounded for 2 years. And I feel like whenever I was researching this, I was like, this is a very Katie move. This is a Katie move of Constance. Like, she's like, you don't want me to leave this castle? Oh, okay. I'll just sit here in my castle, not making any sudden movements. Look at no, I'm just checking my messages on my phone, not trying to stab you or anything. See this? Look, totally innocent.
Not trying to plot any plots here.
Right. Not trying to make any waves. Like, you're just not trying to make any waves. Okay. You've got a whole army surrounding your fortress. Do you really want to try to overthrow him? Because you're going to get killed quick.
Nope. And as we've discussed many times on this show, I value my life more than a religion or a birthright or a nun me up, bitch, whatever. I'm not trying to be a martyr.
So King Edward III of England finally agrees, okay, we're formally going to take Constance in. We're going to bring her to an English-held territory in France.
Okay. Because the 100 Years' War and nothing is real. Borders don't exist. Okay.
It's like, why does England have to have their hands down France's pants every single step of the way? Like, technically.
Do you want to know why, or was that a rhetorical question?
No, that was a rhetorical question. Because I know it's what caused the 100 Years' War. So, really though, like, England always kind of just wants to know what's in everybody's business anyway. They're always like, what's going on in your country? But what's going on in your country? So enter the country of Castile. Because now we've got our girl Constance coming over. This brand new government of Castile is shaky at best. We've got, King Enrique...
Yeah, it sounds like kings are just getting murdered, so yeah.
Yeah, and he's just now on the throne, so he's a pretty new king, so pretty simple to try to overthrow that. Right. Would be a perfect time to IDK overthrow it.
It would be a shame if someone overthrew it, yeah.
And then this is when King Edward III promptly offers up his newly single son, John Gaunt.
There we go!
So... John's late wife, Blanche Devereux of Lancaster. No, really, it's just Blanche of Lancaster.
No, I think all our listeners now know her as Blanche Devereux of Lancaster, so it's fine. It's fine.
So this particular Blanche Devereux of Lancaster, fun note, her fortune is actually still funding the monarchy today.
What?
Yes, queen.
That's how rich she was?
She had some jewels, motherfucker. That's what I'm talking about.
Her son goes on to be Henry IV. And so it doesn't surprise me that, generational wealth from her, because she was a very rich heiress for the next few generations. But I didn't know generational wealth meant modern day. That's like 600 years, 700 years. That's bananas. B-A-N-A-N-A-S.
She's a rich bitch.
That is some very rich bananas. Very wealthy bananas.
So obviously this marriage between John and Constance from the English side, 100% political, 100% strategic.
Yeah.
Like, you marry me, I marry you, I take your country. Sounds fair, right?
Thumbs up. Let's do it.
So Constance makes her way to London on February 9th. So on February 9th, 1372, she's escorted by the Black Prince. And she is escorted in as the ceremonial Queen of Castile.
Ooh.
Funny how she can throw all this shade and say that she's the Queen of Castile while in England. She wouldn't say this in Castile because she'd get killed.
Totally off. Yes, 100%.
Yeah, she enters London. She's like, oh, now I'm the Queen of Castile. In Spain, I was just that chick.
I was in hiding.
So her younger sister actually travels with her to England at this point because don't blame her. I'd want to get the fuck out too.
I can come. I can be your lady in waiting or some shit. I can come. Okay.
Sweet. So her sister's name is Isabella of Castile, and no, not
different.
Queen Isabella. Not real inventive with names. We all know that. But I suspect that maybe Isabella is a family name, but I'm no expert.
I don't think that would be a horribly long shot there.
So Constance moves into Savoy Palace to live with her new hubby, John Gaunt. And while in ye old dusty castle, they dust out her old dusty castle, and they manage to eat her.
But Nathan, was it a ding dong ditch?
No ding dong ditch in this ceremony.
Okay.
No, it was a ding dong. Okay, you stay.
Oh.
So they have 2 children. Unfortunately, only one ends up surviving past infancy, and her name is Katherine of Lancaster. So if you don't know Katherine of Lancaster, that is actually Isabella of Queen Isabella's grandmother. Excuse me.
Okay.
Grandmother. Just grandmother.
Just
because Katherine of Lancaster gave birth to a son who was Isabella's dad.
Oh, and so that's how Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon were actually distant cousins.
There you go.
Everyone's related.
So no, this was definitely one of those where when you start off researching Constance, you have no idea of all of these relations, and then you're like, but
once you go down the rabbit holes, you're like, oh, yeah.
Making sense. So, spoiler alert, John Gaunt and his plan to just somehow overthrow Castile and take, freaking Constance's country, it didn't quite work out.
He was like, I'm the king of Castile, and everyone's like, but you're not.
That's direct quote. So, in fact, John and Constance actually end up renouncing any claim to the throne. Oh. So they legitimately we are not, but, don't worry. They renounce a claim to the throne, but they play let's make a deal.
Ooh.
So they said, all right, we'll denounce a claim to the throne. However, King Enrique Iglesias, your son has to marry our daughter, Katherine. So Constance
they don't
and John
know about all of the bad shit that can happen in
and they also don't know all the bad shit that's gonna happen just because of Isabella of Castile and Catherine of Aragon.
Oh goodness.
But the deal was struck. Hey, you're still gonna be the king of Castile as long as your son marries our daughter.
Okay.
We're good. So they're technically second cousins, I think, because Peter and...
They'd be first cousins once removed.
Yeah, so
technically second cousin. Yeah, second.
Because it's a half, so
yeah.
Whatever.
Whatever.
Constance's daughter ended up birthing King John II of Castile, who ends up being Queen Isabella of Castile's dad.
Okay.
So anyway, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. This has been Castilian History 101. But not much else is really known about Constance's life after this point.
Did you find anything about what happened, what went down with her during the Peasants' Revolt?
No, I did not.
Because in some like really deep in the weeds stuff I found, it was like, so she's like chilling. Remember how she had like a castle up the street from London?
Yeah.
So she's chilling there, and the peasants come in to do the revolt, and they pass through her town because it's only like a few hours angry mob march from London. So she and her crew flee to one of John of Gaunt's lands up north. And they don't recognize her because she's never been there before. And they didn't let her in.
Oh, no.
And so she had to like go beg at some other castle and be like, ugh.
No, but for real, I am
the Duchess of Lancaster. And then they were like, oh, we think we were. That's how like little they were seen together. They're like, she literally went to her husband's properties, and he was like, and they were like, oh, okay, you're the queen. Or not the queen, but okay, you're the Duchess.
Well,
LOL.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy, but to me it makes sense because like with her,
it was such a dynastic. It had nothing
to
do
with her
yeah.
upbringing, you know, like she was used to dad potentially having a wife over here while mom is a mistress. So she's kind of used to not that royal marriage being this, it's just for name purposes. It's just a technicality. So I can see how she'd be like, ah, shit. Now this is like really biting me in the ass.
No, I don't think, from what you've said and from like we know from her upbringing, I really don't think that she expected to be in love with John of Gaunt or really expected anything from him besides what she got. But in that one story that I read, and like it was so hard finding any sources on it at all. It was deep and buried. But I think she expected a little bit more protection from the angry mob. Then like, this is my husband's house, and they're like, LOL. All right, get out of here. You might have the accent down, but you're not really Constance of Castile. And she's like, bitch, I am. I'm pretty sure John of Gaunt actually fired the dudes that didn't let her in.
Good, because they should.
They should have had at least like a sketch of her on hand or something.
I know, and even like
a password
modern day,
she could have used.
It's like all of the images that we have of Constance are like maybe her. Like it's like.
Oh, that's how it was with Katherine Swynford too.
Constance of Castile, Duchess of Lancaster, died on March 24th, 1394. So she would have been no older than 40 at that time.
Okay.
She was buried at the Church of Annunciation of Our Lady of the Newark. Oh my fucking God, these churches with their long ass names.
Newark?
The Church of the Annunciation of Our Lady of the Newark.
Is it in New Jersey?
Yes. No,
yes.
It's not. But sadly, that church was destroyed. You know, when Henry VIII's dickhead son decided it'd be cool just to like tear down all the churches. Woohoo!
Yeah.
I think he hated churches with long names too, just like me.
Too long. Just call it church.
Pull it down. So just call it church. So Constance, while a much lesser known woman, direct relative of the most powerful woman player, arguably the most powerful female ruler in history, Queen Isabella of Spain. Yeah. She rose above all of her father's, you know, shenanigans, and she ended up being legitimized as an heir to the Castilian throne. And then, despite being overthrown by her bastard uncle, she ended up being married to John Gaunt, becoming the Duchess of Lancaster, and then giving birth to the future heirs of Spain and also Catherine of Aragon. So, yeah, definitely hats off to this lady.
That is such a cool story, Nathan. I love that. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that she was an ancestress of Isabella and them. Cool.
The more you know.
The more I know.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. We're so happy that you joined us on this episode. And let's raise a glass and
raise
cheers
a glass
to this bitch.
Bitches. Click. All right. Bye, guys.
Mwah.